Greetings, friends and strangers alike. Welcome, one and all. I'm ForeverTheElf, and welcome back to Character Cartography, a series where we use Minecraft map art to create various icons, logos, and symbols from popular culture, such as movies, TV shows, and video games. For this video, we are going to be delving into the world of cartoons with one of my favourite TV shows of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender, or Avatar: The Legend of Aang, depending on what region you're from. This map is going to consist of the symbols of the 4 elemental nations of the world. I'm pretty excited about this one, so let's get to it. Alright, let us talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar may be one of my favourite TV shows of all time, if not my #1 favourite. I can't really think right now. Because it does so much more than kids' cartoons usually do. It has the look of your regular run-of-the-mill kids' cartoon, but it deals with so much more adult themes. And I'm not saying I want adult stuff in my cartoons. If I want that, I can go to, like, South Park. But they don't... It might look like a kid's cartoon, but I wouldn't say it's for kids. Now, the first season is very kid-friendly. There are a lot of silly jokes going on, particularly involving soccer. But as the show goes on, it just starts becoming much more adult, dealing with a lot of themes that kids don't really think about. Stuff like genocide and war, and whether it's right or not to kill. There's a moment in season 3 where Aang is having to come to terms with the fact that he might have to kill the Fire Lord to end the war, and you don't get that in a kid's show, you know? I also love the characters of Avatar. I think they're so real. Like, they have to mature very quickly as they're kids, but at the end of the day, they are still kids or teenagers. So they do still behave like kids. Like, at the beginning of the show, all Aang wants to do is have fun and play because he's a 12-year-old boy. And another example I can think of characters really showing their age is with, I think, Katara in particular. She, for the most part, is very mature. She's almost like the mother of the group. But she does have some moments where you remember, oh right, she's a 14-year-old girl. I think season 3 really brings that out in her. There's an episode where they go to like a random fishing village in the Fire Nation, and they see that they're really impoverished because their water's been polluted by a nearby war factory. And other characters in the group really try to deter Katara from helping these people out because they say, look, we want to help, but there's priorities, you know, we need to plan for the invasion of the Fire Nation. We can't just stop and help every random hinky-dink town on the road. But she doesn't think of that, you know, she doesn't think of the big picture. She's very caught up in the moment and wanting to try and help these people, which is very noble. You know, she's a very noble character in that regard, but that teenage selfishness, almost, not quite selfishness, but that attitude, it really smacks of someone a little more immature and not able to look at the big picture. And that especially comes to fore when at the end of the episode she destroys the war factory, not thinking of the consequences that the soldiers in the factory now blame the fishing villagers and they're going to destroy the village. Like, she didn't think that far ahead, you know? But I'm not saying this as a criticism for the character. I think it's a very well-written character. It's a very real human thing to do, is to perhaps act on our feelings rather than looking at the big picture and thinking about consequences and stuff. And that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons that I really love this show. Is the characters just feel like actual real people. Alright, now we've got that out of the way. What is my favourite of the 4 elements? I think personally I really like the waterbenders. I think a lot of the stuff they do is very cool, very diverse. One moment in particular is where they get to the Northern Water Tribe and Katara has a duel with a waterbending master. Just the different... You think the battle's just going to be, oh, they're just going to throw water at each other like this is Pokemon. No, they really don't. They mix it up. They really bend the element into doing all sorts of different things. Like, there's a really cool moment where Katara makes a pillar of ice and then turns it into like razor sharp discs and throws it at the guy. So I think waterbending is probably my favourite of the bunch. As for which element I think is the most powerful, I think that has to go to air. It really does seem to be the least restricted of the 4 elements. Like, waterbenders can't really bend unless they have access to some water. Earthbenders, same with earth. Firebenders seem a little less restricted in that regard because they create their own fire. They don't need the element to bend. But we have seen instances where firebenders are lessened in power when they're in a cold environment. Whereas we haven't really seen any restrictions on airbending, so I think airbending definitely has to be the most powerful element of the bunch. And I think that's really shown in the TV series where Aang really is so much more powerful than everyone else. When he's first captured by the Fire Nation, or Zuko should I say, not the Fire Nation, the guards really underestimate Aang and he just completely overpowers them like they're nothing. That might be in part because they've never seen an airbender before and they don't really know how they work. That's a factor, but I think it's more so the fact that airbending is just that powerful. I like that all of the elements look and act all completely differently. I like that waterbending is more about redirecting your opponent's power rather than using your own. Much like water can redirect things. I like that the fighting style for earthbending is very much just not much movement, but very powerful stances and not being easily blown over, much like earth. Firebending is all about attack and strength and power, which is very true for real fire. It's in its all-consuming nature. And then airbending is much more about evasive action and trying to find different avenues and ways to beat an opponent, much like air can just get everywhere. Alright, I've rambled on a bit too much about this show that I really, really love. I'll have to do more Avatar related map art in the future just so I can talk about it some more. But that's going to be it for this one. I've really enjoyed this map art so far and I hope you guys have too. And I'll see you in the outro. Alright, and that is another map art finished. I am actually really, really happy with this. Well, I have been with all of them so far, but I'm really happy with this. It's the most colour I've used so far. It's actually the longest I've taken to decide on what colours to use, to be honest. I went back and forth on a lot of things. I considered using white instead of light blue carpet for the water. I considered using like a sandy beigey colour instead of the grass blocks for the earth. And I even considered using black for the actual flame of the Fire Nation. Because I wanted to incorporate the sort of primary and secondary colours of the 4 nations, which for like the Water Nation it's blue and white. The Earth Kingdom it's green and like beige. Fire Nation is red and black. Sometimes red and gold, and the Air Nomads is yellow and orange. The Air Nomads one, I'm actually not 100% thrilled with what I've got based on the colour. I didn't want to use yellow wool because it has a slight green tinge to it on the map. If it looked like it did here on the map, I'd be really happy with it, but it has a slight green tinge to it, and I'm not happy with that. However, my only other option, and an option I actually heavily considered before starting, was using gold. Either in gold blocks or the gold pressure plates. They give off a much softer yellow, which I feel is way more accurate to the yellow used on the air nomads in the show, but I didn't even have a third of the gold I needed for that amount. So I didn't want to spend weeks grinding up the gold to use, so I had to settle with the yellow wool. Maybe we'll use gold in a future project where it calls for it. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. I think they all turned out pretty well. I actually messed up the designs of these quite a few times. Especially the water one, that kept screwing me over. I had to like restart or tear out a bit and redo like 3 times or something. Man, I'm terrible at like copying what I've already built. But I'm happy with this anyway, to be honest. If you're curious about the blocks I used, I'll put the numbers up for them on screen so that you can possibly recreate this for yourself. So if you want me to make a map out of something in particular, please do put your your suggestions down in the comments. I've said it before, I do have tons of ideas myself, but hey, you guys could come up with something that I'm not thinking of. So please do put your comments down in the comment section, your suggestions down in the comments. Wow, geez. So that's it for this map art video. If you enjoyed it, then please feel free to like the video and subscribe for more content. If you wish to check me out elsewhere, I stream over on Twitch 4 days a week. Please let me know that this video sent you. It's always nice to hear that. Also follow me on Twitter for various updates about streams and YouTube videos and anything else. And lastly, please feel free to join the Woodland Realm Discord server. All links are in the description. See you next time. Cheers.